ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, and verse number 25. Today we'll discuss. So yesterday we discussed from verse number 24. Achedyoyam adajyoyam akledyo asosya evacha nityah sarvagata sthanu ashloyam sanatana. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So this is the characteristics of the soul, which is eternally present within the living entity. Whether the living entity, the soul, when it is in material conditioning, material world, at that time also these characteristics are present within the soul. In the previous verse, Krishna said, Nanam Chindanti Sastrani. While living in this material existence, the soul cannot be cut into pieces by material weapons. Fire cannot burn, air cannot dry it up, and similarly, no material elements can have any effect or cannot change the nature of the soul in material conditioning. But even in its original, in the spiritual realm also, the soul cannot be changed. That is what we learn from this verse number 24. Achet Dev means it is unbreakable in all circumstances, whether within material atmosphere or after liberation in a spiritual atmosphere also, the soul remains Achedya. Achedya means it is unbreakable. And Adahyo, it cannot be burned. Akledya, it is insoluble. Ashosya, and it cannot be dried up. And therefore, it remains as it is. Sarvagata. It can go anywhere and everywhere without getting affected because its characteristic does not change. So Nitya, it remains Nitya, always everlasting. Sarvagata. Sthanu Rachalo means it is unchangeable, and Sanatana. Eternally, it remains like inherits these qualities. So now a few more characteristics Krishna is telling in this verse, which we are discussing today. अव्यक्त्वयमचिन्त्वयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So avyaktoyam, avyakta, avyaktoyam, achintoyam, avikaryoyam uchyate. Invisible. Avyakta means materially it cannot be identified. Materially it cannot be its presence or its characteristics. But one cannot perceive of its characteristics materially. That is the meaning of avyakta ayam, invisible. And achintya means it's inconceivable, beyond the perception of mind, intelligence, senses. Okay, ठीक. गौरव प्रोनी. So, achintya avikaryoyam. Achintya means inconceivable. Means one cannot comprehend its characteristics. Whatever characteristics or qualities Lord Krishna is mentioning in these verses, this chapter. So it cannot be perceived materially, or it cannot be conceived. One cannot understand how it is possible. That is the meaning. Because those who are scientifically inclined, so they always try to see things with logic and reason and experiments and research. But the characteristics of the soul, uh, which Lord Krishna is mentioning, it cannot be verified, it cannot be logically or reasonably, materially, in material terms. In material terms, logic, reasons, and research, all these things fail in explaining the characteristics of the soul. That is why it is achintya. Achintya means materially, with material brain, intelligence, these qualities cannot be conceived. That is the meaning of achintya. And Lord Krishna is also achintya. And the soul is also achintya, inconceivable. I am. And but still it is avikaryo, I am, unchangeable. It remains as it is. Tasmat evam. In like this, you should understand, Arjun. The soul is like this. How? These are the qualities, characteristics. It is unbreakable. It cannot be burned, and all these qualities, whatever Krishna spoke in previous verses. And now he's telling, this is it is not manifested to material eyes, material brains, and achintya, inconceivable, like this. Evam viditva, knowing like this, Arjuna. Tasma, therefore, enam nas anusochitum arhasi. That's why you do not deserve to lament for the soul. You do not deserve. This is what Lord Krishna is concluding after explaining the characteristics of the soul. So I described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. Magnitude of the soul is so small. Keshagra satabhagasya satadha kalpitasya cha. Keshagra, the tip of the hair, 10,000 part of the tip of the hair. That is the magnitude of the insignificant soul. That's why with material instrument, material calculation, it cannot be seen, it cannot be explained, it cannot be verified, even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. That's why it is invisible. Avyakt. The meaning of avyakta is because it is so very small that it cannot be seen by this very powerful microscope also. Avyakta does not mean it is nirakar or impersonal. Mayavadis, they think like this. Avyakta means unmanifest, means it is nirakar. No, it has the form, but its form is spiritual and its form is so small that with material instruments, with material senses, brain, because it cannot be seen, cannot be observed, that's why it is said that it is avyakta. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We had to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. So, avyakta, avyakta because it cannot be seen through any material arrangements, material instruments. That's why it is avyakta. It has been explained as avyakta, unmanifest, and achintya, inconceivable because experimentally one cannot establish the soul's existence. The only proof for the existence of soul is Vedic wisdom, Ashruti. Means Vedic Shastras, Vedic literatures state like this, that this is the characteristics of the soul, so we have to accept it. Although this is a fact, through reasoning or logic and through intelligence, through our day-to-day or practical observation, we can understand that there must be something other than this material body, which is the source of life. This much can be understood, but one can never understand what exactly it is, the soul, what exactly it is, how it, what are its characteristics. It cannot be understood through this experiment. That's why in Vedic scriptures also, naiti naiti, the soul or the super soul also, Brahman, has been explained like this, that this is not like this is not like this is not like this, no material. But what it is, one has to accept only on the grounds of superior authority, Vedic literature. As Lord Krishna in this chapter in Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna is explaining these truth or characteristics of the soul, so one has to accept as it is. No argument, no logic can work. Not only this, there are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. Hmm. Very nice argument Srila Prabhupada is giving. Just like not just existence of soul and super soul, one, even the existence of one's own father, one has to accept on the authority of his mother. That's all. No proof. One cannot prove. Somebody may say, oh, DNA proof is there. But no, DNA proof, there are many millions of male. If you go on doing DNA, it will take at least 800 years to perform all the DNA tests for all the male person. And among those, they will give you 200 a male, one of among whom who will be your father, because the DNA will match. So this through experiment, one cannot even know who is his father. Even to know who is my father, one has to depend upon the authority of his mother, his family. There is no other option. So what to speak of the Supreme Father, the Super Soul, Supreme Father, and the soul also. So one has to accept knowledge from authority. That's why this knowledge, spiritual knowledge, is descending process. Avaroha Pantha, not Aroha Pantha. Avaroha Pantha means descending process. That means one has to get spiritual knowledge by disciplic succession. That is the only way. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas. We have to accept that. One cannot argue. One has to accept. Neither one can say that I experience the existence of soul like this. That soul is universally applicable. It's a universal consciousness, and our soul is pervading all over the universe. You may be feeling like anything, but that does not give the truth. Oh, that is not true. The truth is what has been explained in the Vedic literature. And Vedic literatures, Bhagavad Gita, and Puranas, Upanishads, they explain that there is an individual soul known as living entities whose consciousness is very, very minute, and there is another individual soul which is known as who is known as super soul and whose consciousness is all pervading. So, on the authority of Vedas, we have to accept these facts. So, unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. This is also established through Vedic literature. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite supreme soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic. The soul is always atomic in size in front of the supreme soul, who is infinite. So this is also a Vedic version. Authority. On the authority of the Vedas, one has to accept this. The supreme soul is infinite and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. This also. So this is explained in Katha Upanishad. So Itasvatara Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita also explains, and Bhagavatam, many Puranas, these facts have been explained. So on the authority of these Vedic literatures, one has to accept that the Supreme Soul is infinite and we are minute individual infinitesimal spirit soul. So there is no question of this Mayavad misconception. So therefore, the infinitesimal soul being unchangeable can never become equal to the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. The repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. So this concept, the same concept or regarding the characteristics of the soul is being repeated again and again by a supreme authority, Supreme Lord Krishna himself, beginning from the verse number 11 of this chapter till verse number 30. Krishna will go on explaining the same thing again and again. You might be feeling the same thing, Nitya, Sanatana, Sarvagata, Sthanur, unaffected, unchangeable. So this all the characteristics Krishna is explaining again and again. Why? Because repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. Because just imagine when Krishna has explained so nicely the characteristics of the soul and the difference between soul and super soul, all these things have been explained by Krishna. And so many times he has explained, still there is so much confusion in the society. Still there are Mayavad philosophers and these Buddhist philosophers. Just imagine if Krishna would have told only once that, okay, my dear Arjuna, you are a spirit soul, you are infinitesimal, and do not worry, you just perform your duty. So do you think this will be sufficient for a less intelligent class of people like us in this age of time? Not possible. Again and again, one has to repeat the thing. It's like a small child, a kid, um, who is studying, so who is not very intelligent, whose brain is not, intelligence is not so sharp, that the teacher has to explain again and again. And sometimes teacher has to do it personally. She has to solve the questions in front of the student. Then also there is no guarantee that the student will be able to understand the concept again. So that's why repetition of the things are necessary. The more we hear again and again these concepts, the characteristics of the soul, the more we become fixed up in the knowledge regarding the soul. Okay. So with this, we'll stop this particular verse. Tomorrow we'll start another verse. Okay. So if there are any questions, you can ask. Hare Krishna. Yes, any question?
As you said, like the soul is not should not be taken as a universal thing that it can travel anywhere. That thing I'm not clear about. Can you please re-explain in short? Hare Krishna.
Soul can travel anywhere means Sarvagata, characteristics of the soul which Krishna is explaining Sarvagata. That means the soul can exist in all the circumstances, in all the atmospheres with suitable material body. The suitable material body is required. But the soul cannot be destroyed. That is the meaning. Okay. Clear?
A universal means Prabhu means there. That universal word
Universe,
you used.
universal means everywhere the soul can exist. Sarvagata. That's what I meant.
Okay, Prabhu.